Hello, I'm Toycat, and I have been approached and still am approached to sell part or all of this YouTube channel, but unlike many big creators referenced in this video, I didn't. Why did I turn down so much money, enough to buy a mansion, you could say? Well, I want to explain today, even though I almost accidentally did it when I first started, and let me tell you, my creative friends who did really regretted it. But let's start with how selling a YouTube channel even works, because I'm sure this is most people's gut reaction to hearing that this is happening, because how can you even sell a YouTube channel? The truth is, YouTube is, YouTube is business now, but YouTube can be very big business for some creators, which means it has an income, it has expenses, and so therefore there are profits and losses to be made. In general, if you are approached by a private equity firm, the people who are buying lots of YouTube channels, they will offer you some percent of your revenue, or they want to buy some percent of your revenue, and in exchange they'll give you a multiple of your earnings. So if your YouTube channel, let's say, made $5,000 in profit, they can offer you $20,000 to $40,000 to buy the rights to it for the rest of time. This is something which effectively will turn you, if you are the sole, person behind it, from being a small business owner into an employee, which is a very good thing for the mental health of many creators. I think that lots of people love creating, but they hate the pressures of running a small business, and so selling and having that peace of mind means you can go from being someone who is directly financially tied into every decision into being someone who can just make videos, you might say. And indeed, this is particularly true when you think about the fact that people who make businesses and make great, big, successful businesses, the founders, if you will, are not necessarily the same as the people who are good at running them. This has always been true, and you can probably best see it with Minecraft. If Minecraft was still owned by the people who made it today, it would undoubtedly be a very different game. And although some people would argue for the better, that gets into a much deeper debate, it still would be very, very different, and this is why private equity has seen YouTube as a big opportunity. It is a rapidly growing field of people who can directly share their content with an audience, and as you've seen, big budget YouTube channels seem to get audiences even faster than everyone else. People are more likely to subscribe to creators who are very, very high-end in production value and who clearly have spent a lot of money on the editing, scripting, recording, etc. process, and so that is something that private equity sees as a big boon. So if I've just said why that's good for private equity, they can make some money investing in something that maybe creators themselves aren't, and it can be good for the YouTube employees, then the YouTube channel creators, then why is it something I don't want? If I've just said that I could sell my channel and make a buttload of money, enough to have a massive fountain sit in front of my in my new mansion that I'd be buying, then why is it that I didn't sell? And I think the simplest explanation to this one, because obviously any decision like that is effectively saying I'm going to take some of the money I would have earned in the future and have it now, which is great for sleeping well at night, but is also kind of the, it's betting against yourself. You are saying that if you think your YouTube channel is worth selling for 5 times its revenue, then you don't think that you'll be doing it as good as you are now for the next 5 years. I've always kind of bet on myself to some extent, but the biggest reason why is probably, rather than giving you some fun sales pitch about how I believe in the channel and stuff like that, I think the biggest one I would say is that I like creative freedom. One of the biggest luxuries in the world, I would say the biggest luxury in the world, truthfully, that even many rich people don't actually have, is the ability to decide what you want to do, or rather, the ability to decide that you don't want to do something, and therefore, you won't. This is something that you can only do if you own the channel. As an employee, you are not always given that same freedom, and I think this goes deeper onto like a creative level too, because a lot of private equity channels that are now under the umbrella of some giant organization. By the way, private equity doesn't necessarily mean something bad in its own right. It just means not publicly listed companies, just for what it's worth. But a lot of these private equity channels have a big interest in removing the faces of these channels. The face of a YouTube channel is its most non-replaceable asset, and so we're getting slightly less personality-driven content, which personally I don't think is a good thing. It's one of the things I like about YouTube, broadcast, yourself, not broadcast the whims of a giant business. But so I like owning a YouTube channel because it allows me to make the decisions that a private equity firm would find to be too risky. For example, I like having a big series that is based on the adventures I've been having in my survival world for the last 13, 14 years. And I think that it's getting very close to 13 years now, by the way. But I love that I can have a series like that and it not be considered a giant financial risk, because what if I stop playing Minecraft? What if I get fired from the channel and they can't find someone to replace me? These aren't valid concerns when you work for yourself, something I am grateful of. So that is one of the big things that I would say. I don't really want to sell the YouTube channel because it's kind of taking a bet against yourself and also giving up some creative freedom, which is fine if you see it as a business from the start, but when you see it also as a bit of a creative project, things do get a bit more mixed. But yeah, I do think that there are some serious downsides directly too of the fact that, like, well, YouTube channels are obviously mature and my odds of getting million view videos are now lower because the audience is wider, the people subscribe to this channel, but also it's YouTube viewers want different things, there's more niches being filled, and more importantly, there's far more YouTube content being created. Because a lot of people saw it as a big gold rush back in the day, there is now a lot of YouTube channels that are, trying to buy their lottery ticket for maybe that one in a giant chance, and it means that there is a lot more YouTube content, which can be a good thing as a viewer, although that seems to have mixed results based on who you are, but it is also something that means that, there are real risks to running a YouTube channel. What if YouTube decides to not push your videos? What if the algorithm decides that you've used a bad word in your videos and so aren't worthy of being pushed anymore? These are just risks you have to accept and say, okay, I guess that happened. That's that now. And this is a very, very big risk that you might not necessarily want to run. I think I'm going to move this one block further in, by the way. This is a big risk that many people don't want to run. But I do want to say that even though it sounds like this crazy new age thing to... Yeah, I've moved this one block further in now, right? It sounds like this crazy new age thing, the concept of selling your YouTube channel, or rather selling the revenue of your YouTube channel, which is a more direct way of doing it. And it certainly is. The fact that, like, there are now big name Silicon Valley banks that are approaching the channel. Basically, I get spam emails like crazy saying, "We want to lend you money. Please, you don't even have to explain very much about why you want the money. Please take our money and then hopefully pay us back plus interest, or better yet, don't pay us back with interest, pay us back with a percent of the channel." It is something that I find to be beyond fascinating. Hopefully you can understand why, but the reason that it's, even though it does have lots of interesting positive effects, I think it has negative ones, and I think that the best way to explain those would be to explain how this isn't actually a new phenomenon. It seems new because we've got Silicon Valley banks interested, and we've got all sorts of YouTube channels talking about the private equity game and why they are and aren't selling. But I think that the truth is that this is something that has existed for a very long time, just in a different form. So when YouTube first started, to give you a minor bit of a history lesson right here, when YouTube first started paying creators, they actually didn't give any money for gaming creators because you didn't own the rights to your gameplay. To this day, I still don't own, even though this is my Let's Play world, I don't own the rights to the footage of this. What you're watching right now is Microsoft property that they are, Mojang property via Microsoft, that they are kindly letting me use for commercial purposes. They could decide to rescind that at any time. Whether it would hold up in a court or not, I guess, is something that would have to be tested. I can't place a block here for some reason. There's got to be a bug or something. That is very weird. But this is technically Microsoft property. I own the rights. I have a temporary license to use it, and there would probably be a big PR backlash to any company trying to stop you using it. But it all operates based on that same assumption that, it's if I was to stream a movie, I don't own the rights to that movie, and many people are shocked to find this out. So the only way that you could get around that in early YouTube was to have a network who would take a percent of your earnings in exchange for negotiating the rights to use that content. I think that maybe it'll come out way later. I don't think that they actually did the negotiations. I think they just took a percent of your revenue and then charged you for it, and that is how things worked. But basically, in the beginning days, they would charge, say, let's pick the number, like 20 or 30% of your earnings in exchange for allowing you to record gaming footage. These were called networks. The biggest one was Machinima, but there was also Maker Studios. It was previously Full Screen, previously something else entirely. There were lots of these big networks that all had different names, that all had the same idea of, like, what if we could actually make money from other people's YouTube channels. Because you know what's easier than, like, you know, making YouTube videos? Is getting paid from YouTube videos you haven't made. So it's an idea that's been around for a while. And so what's interesting is that this was something that many creators did. And when I was a tiny YouTuber, like we're talking 120 subscribers, I got approached by one of these companies. It was set up by some like 19-year-old guy from the UK, some guy who'd worked out that you can make your own network if you, they worked out the legal steps they'd have to follow. And so this guy was like, yeah, you can sign up for my network and we'll take you even though you only have 120 subscribers. And all we ask for is that you sign this contract. And I almost signed the contract just on the spot. The ability to become a YouTuber was my dream. But after reading the contract, because apparently I'm one of the few people on YouTube who reads contracts I sign, after reading the contract, it was the perpetual rights to 40% of the YouTube channel's earnings forever that were actually on offer, and I didn't sign, although many friends did, not with that company, but with Machinima and other places, that did have cutthroat contracts that said, yeah, forever we are entitled to a percent of your earnings, just because we're giving you the rights to earn on YouTube, which we're not necessarily doing anything for. It was a huge scandal, and it's something that many people regret, but it's this same idea of you can get paid now, but you're gonna have to pay for that later. That is something you should always be very cautious of in life. When there are people who are very eager to give you money, that can be a really good thing. That can be a sign of your skills, and honestly, never go too far down the imposter syndrome rabbit hole of believing that you're not worth anything. But at the same time, there are huge... okay, so we want to get away from... Oh, I don't know what that is, but I don't want to be a part of it. So let's now go this way. And then we want to get down into this area without letting water into it, by the way. That's what I'm trying to do right now. So then we'll make a little hole over here. And there we go, directly above the ancient city. But probably not the ideal place. Anyway, so what do I want to do now? So to give a good example of, like, I mentioned earlier that people who make businesses aren't the same as people who run them. I love this concept of, like, I like making new things sometimes. I liked looking at the Ancient City trailer from 1.18 and just recreating it in my world with a melon portal instead. I think that's fun, but every time I want to come in and out of this building, I have to walk 700 blocks or waste multiple firework rockets because my only access point until last week was this giant 3x3 hole. However, what if I had an easier way to do this? Wouldn't that be great? Yes, it would be great. And so what is my solution for this? Well, I'm going to set up, maybe just off the ladder here, since that sounds like it makes a lot of sense to me. I'm going to set up a, one of these water elevators that's really, really easy to do, but to me just feels a bit like, I don't want to say boring, but it feels like, I don't know, ticking a box or something like that. It feels like, oh, I guess if we're going to do the thing, we should technically tick the box that says transport to and from it. There are lots of things that are really important to running a regular life, Okay, there's the lava from earlier. That's the good news. How do I connect that to here? That's a tricky question. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to work that out later. I'm going to climb up my ladder for now to show you how questionable my current standards are. And then later, we'll come through and we'll connect the thing down and make a proper lava stream or a soul sand stream. So yeah, my grand point that I want to finish off today, because I almost signed a terrible contract that would have crippled the YouTube channel and would have ruined the entire thing that I have done over these last 13 years on the honestly, the time that I've been making YouTube videos has been actually even longer than 13. It's more like 16. But for the more than half my life I've been making YouTube videos, I could have ruined that with a simple agreement, and that is what freedom is to some extent to me. I know, freedom is something that varies a lot country to country. This is something we see more and more with intercontinental disagreements about it these days. But even though the concept of freedom might vary so much, I think the most important underpinning is that you get to decide what you do. And when you sign complicated financial arrangements, you're often giving that right away. Is it okay to sign that right away to, like, I don't know, have a mortgage on your house? Well, if you want a house bad enough, then maybe. But you have to be aware of what the downsides are, what the flip side is on every contract that you sign. And that is something that I think everyone should be cautious of. I also think that, I think that even just beyond the, like, financial ramifications, I think that, like, if you get a deal that seems like it's too good to be true. Man, it's windy outside. My window just shut itself. If you see a deal that seems like too good to be true, you got to start questioning, like, so what is the catch here, I guess? You've got to start at least wondering. Okay, so I'm going to now put my dirt down here. Okay, right there. then we're going to put a kelp on top of it. We can do that. Then we're going to bone meal that kelp like crazy. This is the classic way. Oh, it's not growing anymore, actually. So this is the classic way that you make blocks into something else. Although this kelp isn't growing anymore. So what we're going to do is we're going to break it, and we're going to bone meal again, and it's working much better this time. I don't know why it's working much better, but it seems like it is. Yeah, it's growing taller every time we do this. I don't understand the underlying mechanic, but I guess eventually it'll grow all the way to the top before breaking. This is something that is hugely important for the world. The ability for me to have a way up that doesn't require fireworks is going to be a nice improvement. Look at this, by the way. Zoom! Super satisfying, super fun. So now we want to go a few blocks down with that dirt block. We want to do the same, place the kelp, bone meal it like crazy, bone meal it until it stops letting me, and then bone meal it again like crazy. And then we break this, we break that, and then hopefully... There we go, we've got oxygen. Oh, no, we don't. No, there's no oxygen in this stream. It's literally made of bubbles, but none of that can be oxygen, apparently. So that's very... Oh, because there's a single block here that isn't a water source. So we have to swim from this set of it to the next set of it. But there's not going to be a next set of it. See, solving problems like this is, like, technical and important, but just isn't as fun to me as having some fun in Minecraft. Building something that I think would add to my world. And I think that in the same way that I think it's important, I like personality-focused YouTube content. I think YouTube, broadcast yourself, should be about the people to some extent, if not a full extent. And so personally, I love the idea of working on and creating it that way. But I know that's something that I guess is hugely different. I think that the long run of YouTube eventually will get more and more crowded, and older YouTube channels inevitably, the average TV show can last for 1 to 3 seasons. The average YouTube channel, if it's lucky, can last for 7 years. What is the plan for the long run, if not selling it? Well, obviously, as time goes on, the odds of having a viral YouTube video, let's say, does go down and down. I think, like getting a 1 million view YouTube video when you have a channel with an existing audience that expects a certain thing might be a lot harder. Getting a 10 million view YouTube video certainly is too. But despite that being true, I think that it just means you have to rely on other sources of income, like, for example, memberships. I think that, having, that work like a regular, consistent income in exchange for certain amounts of content is something that's going to grow a lot and that you're probably going to notice amongst independently owned YouTube channels. But I also think that there are other sources that people are going to go for. People sign up for like big creator collectives, people going for all sorts of other secondary revenue streams like merch, or indeed, maybe selling add-ons or whatever. I think that ultimately YouTube and the channel itself, even in its current form, doesn't necessarily pay enough to pay staff, taxes, and living expenses. But despite the fact that things have trickiness and I have to navigate a difficult business environment as well as a Minecraft one at the same time, I think that it is very much a thing that is worth doing. I think that despite the difficulties, this is one of the cool things. And I believe that even though I'm taking the risk, even though when something negative happens, it's my bad or my good, I also think that if I take the bad, if the bad things happen and it's on me, it also means that when the good things happen, then they theoretically can also be on me. And so are those good things going to? Let's hope for sure. I certainly hope that in 5 years I'll be celebrating the decision not to have sold to private equity. I suspect that many people will be in the converse boat, but it's also possible that in 5 years I'll just say, I regret not taking that bag. As someone, as you probably know if you've watched the YouTube channel by this point, I like to give an actual balanced and measured take to things, and hopefully you enjoyed this one for private equity. I've built a beautiful fountain, don't you think? Or at least a beautiful fountain base. I think to truly tie this in together, we're going to need to put some stairs down over here, and some pathway blocks around here. But if you want to see more about my thoughts on this, make sure to consider becoming a channel member. We still have the member-only Let's Plays, where they're very much old-style things, and it is something that supports the channel more and more as time goes on, and allows us to have the style of videos that are what we have here, which hopefully you value. But if you don't want to become a member, then I'll look forward to seeing you next week for a fun Minecraft-related one, because yes, we're going to be talking about what you should do before the Copper Age drops. Speaking of the Copper Age dropping, this video is about to. Goodbye.